In this problem, I want to multiply in the indicated base, and in this case, the base is 6. So what I want to keep in mind is whenever I'm working in a particular base, in this case 6, my digits can only go from 0 through 1 less than whatever the base is. So the only numbers that I can be working with are 0 through 5. Normally, we multiply in base 10, and then our digits go from 0 through 9. So if you get to whatever the base number is, in this case 6, then we have to move over a place value. Just like in base 10, if you get to 10, you move over to the tens place. So we're going to start off this problem, and we are going to multiply very similar to what we do in base 10, where I'm going to take the 5 in the ones place times the other 5 in the ones place. And that means that I have 5 ones, and I want 5 groups of those. So I can visualize this with dots. So here I have one group of 5. And now I'm going to copy that. And here's a second group. And now I have 5 groups of 5. So in base 10, that would mean 25. But in this case, we want to work in base 6. So since there are 25 dots altogether, that's more than the highest digit that we can use. So what I want to do is figure out how many groups of 6 are there. So I'm going to group these dots in groups of 6. And I can do it like this. And what you see is that we get 4 groups of 6 and 1 left over. So in this case, it's not terribly difficult to draw this out. It takes a little bit of time, but it's not the most convenient way. So how do I come up with 4 groups of 6 and 1 left over from our regular multiplication? So what I can do is take that 25 and divide it by 6. And that gives me 6 goes into 25 4 times. So that's their 4 groups of 6. And 4 times 6 is 24. And there's a remainder of 1. And that's the one that goes there. So you don't have to draw it out each time because that would be pretty tedious. So now I'm going to put the 1 in the ones place, and the 4 goes in the 6's place. And we're carrying that over as we do in regular long multiplication. So next, I have a 4 in the 6's place, and so that means 4 groups of 6. So here's my 4 groups of 6, right here. So that's this value of 4, but I want to multiply that by 5. So I'm going to copy this and then paste it in. There's 2. You can skip over this part. It takes a minute. Okay, so now we've got 4. And, all right, we'll make that a little small. And there's our 5th one. And then we have to add this 4, which is again 4 groups of 6. So that's one more group of 4 groups of 6. Since I have a set of 4 groups of 6 already, paste it in there. All right, so now this is a lot of dots. And again, this is not how I would actually calculate this, but more to give you a visual of what does it mean and why are the numbers what they are. Okay, so what I want to know is how many groups of 6 are there? So if I count this up, we've got 24 groups of 6. But 24, bigger than 5, we can't use that as our digit. So I have to say, well, how many groups of 36 are there? Because the next place value up would be the 36's place. Because we're working in base 6. So we would have the 1's place, the 6's place, and the next one is the 36's place. So let's form groups of 36. So that's going to be, it's the easiest way to do this. So here's one group of 36 because it's 6 6's. And then here's another 36, so that's a second one. And then here we've got a third one. And here we have a fourth one. And there's nothing left over. So that means I would have 4 36's and no 6's left over. So I'm going to bring down the 0 here and the 4 here. So I have 4 36's, 0 6's, and 1 1. And so that is 401 base 6. Now, again, I wouldn't want to actually have to draw this out, and it's a lot easier when I can do this with copy and paste. So if I look at this and I say, well, I have 4 in the 6's place times the 5 in the 1's place, and then I add the 4 that was carried, that's how I get 24. So you notice it's the same number, whether I look at the number of groups of 6 or I just multiply and add like we normally do in regular multiplication. But again, this is a base 10 number, and we want to convert this to base 6. So I'm going to say, how many groups of 6 are there? So I take 24 divided by 6, and I get 4 groups of 6, and nothing left over. So that's another way that we can bring down a 0 and carry a 4 over to the next place. So when I'm doing this, I'm always considering my number to be, this is how many ones, didn't mean to erase that. This is how many ones we have, and then we want to convert that to groups of 6, no matter what place value we're in. So we're always dividing by 6 there. And that's how you get that answer. In the next video, I'm just going to show you how I would compute the answer and not necessarily where the values come from in that particular base. So here in this question, now we have 2 6 base 8. So since it's base 8, I like to write this down each time. I know I can only use digits from 0 through 7, and we're going to multiply that by 3 1 base 8. So I start with 6 times 1, and that is 6. It's a base 8 number, right, where it's a digit we're allowed to use, so I just bring that down and move on to the next one. Next, I have 2 times 1. So I'm going to take that, and I get 2, and that's also a base 8 number, so that looks good. So far, pretty easy. Now I go to the 3, and I multiply that by the 6. So now this is where it's going to be a little bit more complicated. And the order doesn't matter. I could have said 6 times 3. It's the same. So in base 10, I would get 18. But we're talking about base 8, so groups of 8. So I'm going to take 8 into 18, and that goes 2 times with 2 left over, which means I'm going to put that 2, the remainder 2, is going to go here, just like we would do in regular long multiplication. We move over one place value each time we move over a place value. And this 2 is going to carry So now I have 3 times 2, so 3 times this 2, and then we're going to add the other 2. Okay, well that's 6 plus 2 is 8. But 8 is not allowed. It's base 8, but we have to stop at 7. So that means I want to know how many groups of 8 are there in 8. And there's 1. And that leaves me with a remainder of 0. So that is going to be a 0 and then a 1 moved over. So now when I add, again, I have to add in base 8. But in this case, that's pretty straightforward. 6 plus nothing is 6. 2 and 2 is 4. That's a base 8 number. And then the 0 and the 1. So we end up with 1, 0, 4, 6 in base 8. So that's how I would do that one. And let's take a look at one more. Okay, so this one, we're multiplying in base 12. So since this is base 12, my digits are going to be 0, 1, 2, all the way up to 9. And then we need a representation for 10 and 11. So we're going to use A for 10 and B for 11. So now we have those 12 digits, 0 through 11, to use in base 12. Okay, so now we have 9 times B. That's where we're going to start. Well, B means 11. And 9 times 11 is 99. So now I'm going to convert this to base 12. Off to the side, I say 12 goes into 99 8 times. And we get a remainder of 3. So this is what goes into the 1's place, whatever the remainder is, and this is the 12's place. So, I'll make this a little larger for a second. And I carry the 8. Okay. So next, I'm going to multiply 7 times B and add the 8. So that's 7 times 11 plus 8, which is 85. And I need to convert that to base 12. So 12 goes into 85 7 times. And there's a remainder of 1. So again, I'm going to put the 1 here, and I'm going to carry over the 7. And then we have b times 1 plus 7, or 1 times b, whatever. So that's 1 times 11 plus 7, which is 18. So 12 goes into 18 once, with a remainder of 6. So 6 comes down here, and the 1 carries over, but since we're done with this row, we just put it next to the 6. So we have 1, 6, 1, 3, base 12, and now we're going to multiply each digit by 8. So now it's 8 times 9, and that is 72. Twelve goes into 72 6 whole times. So that's going to be, I'm moving over a decimal place, right? Or a place value, I should say, not decimal place because it's not base 10. But we're moving over a place value, and so we're going to have 0 here, and then we're carrying the 6. So I'm going to erase this from before, and I'm carrying a 6 over to this place. Okay. So next I have 8 times 7 plus 6. And that is 56, and 6 makes 62. So now we're going to do 12 into 62. 12 goes into 65 times. And we'll have a remainder of 2. Okay, so 2 here, and carrying over a 5. And then we have 8 times 1 plus the 5, and that makes 13. So 13 is one group of 12 with 1 left over, right? Because 12 plus 1 is 13. So I can do the division for that, but I don't really need to do that in this case. And so we put a 1, 1. And now I'm going to add. 3 and 0 is 3. 1 and 0 is 1. 6 and 2 is 8. 1 and 1 is 2. And 1 comes down as a 1. So that is 1, 2, 8, 1, 3, base 12. And that's our final answer.